if I jump back here now and take a look at some of these other properties, these get really in depth. Now this is like this the calculation property is a full rabbit hole that we can go down. There's so much to cover in the calculation property that that's going to definitely be another video. However, we've also got another handy property here called so that just know that calculation properties allow you to build calculations in HubSpot. I'll cover this very shortly. I know this is a very long video at this moment, but calculation properties, they cover, being able to build calculations, and so we can actually, and this is the pro tech move here. We can insert other properties. So maybe like I don't know why I'd want to do this, but maybe I want to add company size. So this is another property on the contact record. So let's add company size to, um, you know, uh, let's see if it's got anything in here. We don't really have very many numbers. Okay, record ID, for example. I don't know why you'd want to do this, and it's clear that the company size, this is a string, only takes in numbers for this edition, of course. So you can add multiple number properties together. You can multiply them together using multiplication is done using the star. Yeah, so there's a ton of stuff that we can go into for this one, but I don't want to go down that rabbit hole for this video. And you probably don't want to see that either. Not yet, anyway. Score properties, these are interesting. You can build scoring metrics in HubSpot. You can add criteria to say, okay, well, if a contact is, let's see here. This is okay. So if the contact's email domain contains any of gmail .com, and if I hit apply, I can score them. I'm going to give them a negative 25 because in the B2B space, we don't really want to deal with people who have an email domain that's not a business email. It's just like, okay, this is probably not a business contact for us, so we'll give them a negative score. Essentially, you could develop a bunch of criteria to create a scoring metric for your leads or throughout various sections of the buyer's journey. Maybe you've got a scoring criteria for MQL to SQL. Maybe you've got a scoring criteria for lead in. It's just a lead score. Many different scoring metrics are possible. It's outside the scope of this video, but just know that this is how you build it out. You add criteria in here from either the same object that you're referencing. Like right now we're referencing contact properties, so I could pull from contact properties, but I could also pull from associated object properties. So that's where it gets really complicated. You can build really intricate scoring matrices using this scoring property. So that's the score property. Moving on, there's a file property. Now, this one has been updated recently. Allows us to choose whether the file visibility is private or public. You're going to choose that, maybe private. Doesn't give you a lot of configuration options. The power in this one is once you create this file property, if you click on it on a form, it pops up an upload option where a user who's interfacing with the form can upload a file to your HubSpot instance, and it's saved in that property. And then reps on the inside, sales reps or marketing individuals or operations can use this property to access that file or they can upload their own files into this file property. So it's a method to provide them the ability to upload things and to reference those uploads in the future. It's a great property to put on the side view if or to store documents such as contracts, or maybe you're dealing with a building company and you want to store building plans in the file property. You could do that. So that's what that one's all about. If I jump into the next property on our list, is the HubSpot user. And I'll talk about property sync briefly, but the HubSpot user property, it allows us to reference any HubSpot user that might be in our system. So this is typically used very similar in HubSpot to a deal owner or a contact owner property. Those are user properties. Those owner properties, they're HubSpot user properties. If you have multiple ownership relationships for a deal, perhaps, for example, you might have for a sales deal, you might have a setter and a closer who's responsible for getting that deal across the line. The setter sets the appointment, books the appointment, and then the closer comes in and manages, the discovery for deeper discovery, and brings that deal across the line. So we've got two individuals who essentially have stakeholder on this deal. We have a deal owner property already in HubSpot. It might be a good, and we use that for the closer. Might be a good idea to add a separate property for the setter to be able to define that ownership. And then we'd be able to draw on those details and send notifications to that setter, which is basically a separate owner-like property, not the deal owner, but just the setter, right? So we can define those with HubSpot user properties. And you can have a bunch of different individuals who touch on a deal and define that this way using this HubSpot user property. All right, so what do we have next? We've got the rich text field. Now, this is interesting. These rich text fields allow us, it's very similar to the single line text and the multi-line text, except now we are able to do multiple lines, just like multi-line, but with formatting. So we can not only type out our shenanigans here, but we can also now, with the rich text, we can bold these things. We can, underline, italicize, set some font size, all of those great things that come with a rich text field. You got your bullet points in here you can put in there. So that's it. If you're looking for more formatting and font changing, and just to be able to do something a little more stylized with your notes, I mean, you're even able to get emojis in here, right? So there's a lot you can do. You can also, insert a link here to a web page that would open an external window. That's a rich text property. So like a souped up version of multi-line text that we talked about earlier. All right, let's get out of that rich text. I'd like to jump into this new property that you may not have access to in your HubSpot instance just yet. This one is in beta. It's called a property sync. You can find this in the HubSpot product updates. Let me just back out of this. Up here in the top right, if you go to here, you go to product updates. And then just type in property sync on that page, find the beta, add it to your instance. Now you've got property sync properties. Now, how this works, it's very interesting. Sometimes we may have a property on, maybe it's a deal record, okay? But we want to reference that in an email sent out to a contact as a personalization token. How do we get that property from the deal record to the contact record, and how do we make that stay up to date? Previously, in the past, it was all done through workflows. Now you can do something called a property sync, and I'll show what that looks like here in a moment. So I'll go ahead and hit create property again. I'm going to select the group, which is the lead capture form group that I made initially at the beginning of our call. And I'm going to call this close date. So most recent close date. Okay. And so I'm going to sync this. I'm going to choose the property sync option, and I'm going to sync this to the deal record close date. And then I'm going to choose, the most recently created deal. So what this will do is on the contact record, I'll always have a property that says most recent close date, and it's synced to an associated deal record such that whenever there's a new deal created associated to that contact and it closes, the most recent one will sync back to the contact record. So that's a really handy thing to be able to surface up for sales teams. Maybe they just want to jump onto a contact and see that when was the most recent closed deal close if they have a lot of deals. So that is an example use case of the property sync. Yeah, I know this video has been very long. I hope you've got a ton of value out of it. And let me know if you've got any questions. Have a great rest of your day.
Thanks for watching, and keep removing those revenue roadblocks. If you want more videos like this, follow our channel for fresh, new content every day. Check out our RevOps playlist, or how about this video chosen just for you? See you next time.